pretty doors, pretty pop, pretty potent. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to the White House. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Hello, Ambassador. It's good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
I hope you've had a good visit. So
Yes, so far.
Good, good, good. And Alexander, feel free to.
Yes, it's good to see you.
Yes, very good. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome to the White House. Yes.
Mr. President, the Prime Minister agrees, sir.
Welcome. Good to see you again.
Such a pleasure. Thank
Joe
you.
Baidenopoulos.
Baidenakis.
Baidenakis?
It's probably better. Mitsotakis, Baidenakis, I think that's
I
probably.
think you're right.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Such a pleasure.
Good to see you.
And I very much admire your time.
Like that guy?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
201 years.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting it on.
Well, come on in.
Very disciplined.
Please,
but,
it's so good to have you here.
oh, thank you so much for.
I don't think things have been better recently.
No, they haven't.
Because of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Come on
you.
in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
I see our photographers may get run over here. This is the thing I always wanted to me. This is mine. Here they come. Ready, get set, go. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, welcome. It's great to have you here. And later this afternoon, we're going to celebrate 201 years. 201 years of Greek independence and strong ties of family and shared democratic values with the United States and a burgeoning personal friendship between you and I. It's been wonderful. The democratic ideals that we so cherish originated in Greece, as we all know, inspired by our founders who were students of Greece, and for centuries has empowered. Someone's playing music. Anybody want to make that phone call? There you go. Thank you. It happens all the time. Sadly, Russia's brutal attack on Ukraine is also about a threat to democracy from autocrats who want to bear down on rules-tested orders and rule-based orders. I want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for Greece's moral leadership here. It's not easy, I know, but thank you. And we have much to discuss today, our ongoing support for Ukraine, our deepening defense and trade partnerships, energy security, climate change, and so much more. Today, the friendship and partnership between our countries, between Greeks and Americans is, I think, more important than ever. And I'm honored to celebrate that partnership with you. You've been a good friend, so welcome. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for these kind words. It is indeed a privilege for me to be here in the United States to celebrate with you 201 years since the beginning of our War of Independence. As you know, your founding fathers were inspired by the ideals of Athenian democracy, and our founding fathers were inspired by the struggle for independence on these lands. Over the past 2 centuries, our two countries have always been on the right side of history, fought in wars together, and of course we are now facing united the challenge of Russia's invasion into Ukraine. At the same time, this visit is an opportunity to reassess the status of our relationship. I honestly believe it is at an all-time high. And I'm not just speaking about the defense component of the relationship, but also speaking about trade, investment, Greece's role as a reliable partner in the Eastern Mediterranean, as a country that overcame the financial crisis with the booming economy, and as a pillar of stability both in the Balkans and in the broader region. So when we talk about issues such as energy security, there's so much more we can do together. And I'm very, very happy to be here with you to discuss these important topics, and later to be able to address also your many Greek-American friends. And I know how close your ties are with the Greeks and Greek-Americans, and it's a privilege to have you here at the White House.
Well, delighted you're here. Thank you, and look forward to our discussion.
Mr. President.
He's a good friend. Affairs, Mr. President Nikos Dendias. It's a great honor. Minister of Defense, Nikos Panagiotis.
We're going to find more of those plans.
Our Minister of Education, Gerameos.
How are you?
Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Fagogiannis.
How are you?
And of course, you know your ambassador.
He's trouble, but I love him. Good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
I think his greatest dream when he was born was to be ambassador to Greece.
My greatest dream was to be your ambassador to Greece.
Ah.
He hasn't stopped smiling since he came. I can.
I don't blame him. Say hello, John. Introduce yourself.
Hello, how are
Nice to
you?
meet you, sir.
I'm a fucking. Good to see you. I'm a sort
Hello,
of.
sir. Kevin Boyd. Very
I
nice.
almost
Hello.
just forgot
Hello.
more about energy than I know.
Well, we'll speak about energy. There's a lot to talk
Hello,
about.
Henry Stern, Deputy
Hello,
Secretary.
how are you?
Hi, Steve Boucher.
Good to see you.
And Jake Sullivan.
How are you?
Jake's not a secure state in Scranton. The coal died. Coal went out of business, and so my father moved down to Delaware, where I was really raised. But had I stayed there, I would have gone to a place called Scranton Prep. It was taught by the Jesuits, and everyone who went to Scranton Prep had to do two things. You had to take 2 years of Latin and 2 years of Greek. I don't think I've been dealing with Greek-American issues for a long, long time. And I don't remember a time when they've been better than right now. It's because of your government, in large part. I really mean it. And so, in spite of my ambassador, they've got really good. No, I'm only kidding. But all kidding aside, this is an incredibly important relationship for us. There's so much. I was having an interview with a person who writes an opinion writer who's very well respected here in the United States. I don't know. There's fundamental changes taking place. There's a real, I believe, he and I talked about it, real contest between democracies and autocracies. Xi Jinping, who I've spent, they tell me, more time with any other world leader, over 70-some hours with him. He just was straightforward. He says democracies cannot survive in the second quarter of the 21st century.
The standards of the review. No offices. Yeah, no offices.
Oh,
It's
hi.
all his fault. It's my fault.
This is my daughter, Sophia.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
Nice to
How are
meet
you?
I'm great.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you. Love the tie.
Your another daughter?
I'm another daughter.
You're the third daughter. So
Oh, I
Good to
wish.
see you.
good God, love you. How are you?
Very great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you? Sorry, it's my fault. We're late.
No, not at all.
But I noticed you guys are all being too polite. We just had to go in and test the
We
dessert to
just
see if it's
tested
all
Oh,
right.
I'm sure.
We checked, just to be sure it's okay. We want to make sure it's safe.
We had a great discussion, so, and you're invited to Greece. To Greece.
We very much like to come back to Greece. Good to see you. Good to see you.
The day for the Greeks.
God love you. How are
So
you?
beautiful to see you again. After the visit of His Holiness,
Yes.
this is the second great opportunity I have to meet.
I know.
God bless you. We pray for you.
Wonderful to see you.
In every
By the
You'll
way-
take those prayers,
By the
right?
way, καλώς ήρθατε κύριε Πρωθυπουργέ, Χριστός Ανέστη.
Κάνετε.
Αλλάξτε.
Χαίρομαι τόσο που σας βλέπω.
First lady.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Oh, they know each other well.
Καλά είστε.
Εσείς,
Χριστός Ανέστη, καλώς ήρθατε.
Χριστός, τι κάνετε?
Πολύ χαίρομαι που είστε
Και
εδώ κοντά
εγώ,
μας.
και εγώ.
Μεγάλη μέρα, εδώ το είδα.
Σοφία, χαρή.
Τι κάνετε, καλώς ήρθατε.
Γεια σας.
Ποια είναι
Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Biden, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a great privilege to be here with you at this bicentennial celebration. My wife, my daughters, my team, myself are tremendously grateful for the warm reception you have offered us. And honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here tonight. I know this is a very special moment for you, Mr. President. I'm sure you see lots of very good friends amongst this gathering. But this visit, as you pointed out, has very strong historical connotations. Modern Greece, like America before it, was forged in the hands of dreamers, of revolutionaries fighting for freedom, fighting for justice. And it was a story of your independence struggle and its eventual success, coming as it did decades before ours, that inspired the oppressed Greeks to fight against all odds for their own freedom. The leaders of the Greek Revolution drew inspiration from what was achieved on this soil. Our ancestors did not just dream of freedom and self-determination. They fought for democracy, Mr. President, that elusive government of the people, by the people, for the people, which was invented in ancient Greece 25 centuries ago. And in his annual message on the 3rd of December 1822, President James Monroe remarked, "The mention of Greece fills the mind with the most exalted sentiments and arouses in our bosoms the best feelings of which nature is susceptible. A strong hope," he said, "is entertained that these people will recover their independence and resume their equal station among the nations of the earth." And it is this shared history of struggle, this shared history of sacrifice, that binds our two nations together. It places upon us, as you said, a solemn responsibility to protect and defend the values that our forefathers risked so much to pass on to the next generations. And today, this duty is more relevant than ever. The war in Ukraine, the invasion of Russia, is a chilling reminder that what we took for granted in Europe, that maps cannot be redrawn by force, is unfortunately no longer the case. As you know, Mr. President, we supported Ukraine from the very beginning, with humanitarian aid, but also with military assistance. We did so for reasons of principle, which should be painfully obvious, but we did so also to protect a world order that is based on the premise of respect for international law, what you like to call a rules-based international order. Neo-imperial fantasies belong to other centuries. They must not succeed. And they must not succeed not only for the sake of Ukraine, but to send a very clear signal to other authoritarian leaders that any violation of sovereignty will be met by a unified and a forceful response. And this is why it is so important that Europe and the United States stand shoulder to shoulder in this fight. After all, what we are protecting are the values which lie at the foundations of our liberal democracies. And as a Prime Minister of Greece, but also as a member of the European Council, I would like to thank you again, Mr. President, for the leadership. The sanctions we have imposed on Russia are crushing, and rightly so. But as we discussed, we must not lose sight of the fact that our societies are paying a heavy price in terms of energy prices. And in this respect, there is so much more we can do together, the European Union and the United States, to bring down the prices of energy, and in particular the price of gas. And as we reduce our dependence on Russian hydrocarbons, we also need to use our market power as larger purchasers of gas to deliver short-term relief to our households and our businesses. Mr. President, I really mean it when I say that the relationship between Greece and the United States is today at an all-time high. Last Thursday, our Parliament ratified the new defense and cooperation agreement between the two countries. And this new cooperation manifests itself not just in the naval base at Bay on Crete, which I hope you will have an opportunity to visit. It has been described by many as the jewel in the crown of a fantastic military relationship. But it also manifests itself in the port city of Alexandroupolis, in northeastern Greece, just 500 miles from the Ukrainian border. And apart from its military importance for NATO, Alexandroupolis, as we discussed, is rapidly becoming a regional energy hub, an entry point for liquefied natural gas into the Balkans and Eastern Europe. And Greece plans to play an important role as a gateway for electricity produced from cheap renewable sources, primarily sun, in the Middle East, in Africa, and we're very happy, Mr. President, that the US has provided its unequivocal support for these projects. A quick word about the region, Mr. President. You are extremely knowledgeable about the Cyprus issue, and please use all your influence to put the negotiation process back on track in accordance with the UN Security Council resolutions. No one can or will accept a two-state solution. Quite fragile. We must keep the European perspective alive and tangible. Greece is a pillar for regional prosperity and security. And we will always seek peaceful ways to resolve our differences with our neighbors. I'm convinced that we can achieve that. We place great emphasis on the 3+1 scheme, a framework that connects the US with Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. And at the same time, Mr. President, we will continue to invest in our armed forces and make it very clear that we will not accept any violations of our sovereignty and our sovereign rights. And after all, we're doing so in order not just to strengthen Greece, but also in order to strengthen NATO's southeastern flank. We will continue our long-standing cooperation between our defense industries. We will launch the process for the acquisition of a squadron of F-35 aircraft, and we do hope to be able to add this fantastic plane to the Greek Air Force before the end of this decade. And I'm happy that on Friday, Lockheed Martin officially expressed its interest in investing in Hellenic aerospace. Of course, the bonds that connect us, the bonds between America and Greece, reach far beyond our shared history, security and defense, across the board, from trade to tourism, technology, and cultural exchanges. There is so much, ladies and gentlemen, to be mutually gained. As you know, Greece has come through severe adversity. The recent economic crisis was extremely painful for our people. But Greeks have proven the resilience. Democracy in Greece has proven its resilience. And today, Greece bears no comparison to the Greece that became the poster boy of the European financial crisis a decade ago. Our economy is strong. Earlier this year, we paid off Greece's outstanding debt to the IMF 2 years ahead. We are creating jobs and investing in new industries, such as digital and clean tech. Many European companies, wary of their dependence on China, are bringing back manufacturing jobs to the European continent, and Greece is an obvious candidate to welcome them. Many American companies are investing in Greece for the first time. Companies such as Microsoft, Pfizer. They're doing so because they see a country that has an advantageous geographic position, that is both a member of NATO and the European Union, a country with a stable government that is welcoming for investors, because Greece, Mr. President, is back, and a promising future lies ahead of us. Let me conclude, Mr. President, by saying that you recognize many Greek American friends amongst this gathering tonight. You mentioned several of them by name. They call you Baidenopoulos. For a reason, although I suggested that maybe we should be called Baidenakis. Everyone in this audience is particularly proud today. I'm equally proud about what we Americans have achieved in the United States. Let me especially acknowledge the presence of your new ambassador to Greece, George Tsounis. I met him at my office a few days ago. The first thing he told me was the story of his parents leaving a small village in western Greece called Platanos. We're honored to welcome George back to his second homeland. And Mr. President, marking this bicentennial, albeit with a year's delay due to COVID, matters deeply to the Greek people and to me personally. Recent events make this celebration that much more pertinent. The fight of democracies against autocracies is the defining battle of our generation. And the proud moments from the history of our two nations give us confidence in what we can achieve in the future. We should never lose sight of what our ancestors fought for, and that which we must now protect. All of us should draw great strength from their example. I'm hugely grateful to you, Mr. President, and Dr. Biden for hosting this magnificent gathering, and I took your words very seriously that you do intend to visit Greece. Thank you again.
The weather has opened up.
And you pronounce perfectly.
That's not always easy.
No, it's not.
It's a very unusual.
Thank you. But you nailed it. So,
And you speak with no, like you just, you're very much like a natural, like, you manage to capture the crowd when you speak. Yeah, and I don't.
You know what, Al? When I first got married, she would not speak to a crowd beyond the size of the classroom, for real. No part of it. Now she's traveling all around the world with saying,
It does, you know,
"Send
practice
Jill back."
makes perfect. That's how she started. The first time she was in a state of panic.
I was too.
I just didn't have it. Oh.
Public speaking is the second thing people are afraid of after dying.
Yeah.
Ask people what are you afraid of? The first thing is dying. The second thing is public speaking.
Scared of embarrassment.
It does take a lot of practice. Everything was perfect.
Oh, good. We're so happy to hear. So happy to hear. So I'll see you tomorrow in Capitol Hill. Yes. Thank you so much. I was very